To be here again. My name is Brian Anderson and I work with Seven Connections, and this webinar is reactivation, reactivating new patients with outstanding treatment plans or unscheduled treatment plans, or some people like to refer to as lapsed treatment plans. So we're just going to go ahead and begin. So the purpose of this webinar is to uncover why patients are getting lost and have unscheduled treatment. So that's our purpose of our webinar. Again, it's to discover why or uncover why patients are getting lost and have unscheduled treatment plans. The outcome of this webinar will be is to give you a clear plan of action in reactivating your patients. I have the privilege of speaking with a number of practices. I probably spoke to about 150 practices last week, and we were thinking about, why the topic of reactivation kept coming up. So when I'm speaking with a practice about growth or how do we improve things in the practice, create more efficiency, there's also this big burning question, or this little treasure box that some practices look at, that they've had a number of patients come in the practice but didn't move forward with the treatment plan that was presented to them. So this is why we chose to do the webinar, is really to help uncover some of those obstacles that patients face, some of the big obstacles that patients face when trying to track their patients and things like that. So this is why we chose this. At the end of the webinar, I want to appreciate everybody who's signing in. I wanted to let some more people sign in, but I just want to appreciate you all for taking the time, for really investing this next 40 minutes or so with me, and just want to say thank you for being here and trusting me with some of your time about reactivating your patients, or even just anything we're going to go through, because again, I'm here to answer questions. I have Ben on the chat, so if we just keep our microphones muted, and then when a question comes up, just unmute yourself so that you can ask if you want to ask, or you can type to Ben and he'll refer to me. But again, I just want to thank everybody who made it to the webinar, who's here sharing time with me. And I just want you to know, at the end of the webinar, we're going to have a great little gift for you that you can opt into, that will help continue to get your step-by-step ways of reactivating more patients. So we're going to have a really good treat for you at the end of this webinar. So we discussed why reactivation. I talked to a lot of practices, about 150 practices probably just last week. And again, there's so many practices out there that say, Brian, I have a huge list of patients that I'm chasing up right now. I want to tell you right now, stop chasing your patients. Stop chasing them. There's no reason that you should be in the motion of chasing anybody. If you have the proper reactivation system put in place, the chase can be a lot less or non-existent. So there are three ways, we can grow our practices. We know that new patients is necessary. Some patients move on, some patients choose other practices, some patients pass. It's just the way it is. New patients are in need. The other way, the third way, is retention. And when I talk about retention, I'm not talking about just the fact that someone comes back from a hygiene appointment. It's also that they're coming back highly engaged, that the hygienist and the dental team, including doctors, have really educated the patient so that they've really bought into their treatment. They own their treatment, whether it's hygiene or it's doing any type of treatment, short-term ortho or implants, and they're just following the protocol. So we want engaged patients. So retention is coming back to the practice, but also coming back engaged and really owning their treatment. The third way is case acceptance. This is really where we're going here, is why patients aren't really just accepting cases on the spot. We're going to discover through this webinar some of those obstacles that we face and some of the reasons why practices have to, again, chase their patients. We want to stop chasing it. But I want to go back to new patients for a second. Even though this webinar is about patients that have come into the practice and been presented a treatment plan, I want to really recognize that besides knowing that you have a list of patients that have been outstanding or have outstanding treatment plans, most practices really focus really heavily on getting new patients. It's like, I have to have new patients. And a lot of practices operate from a place of, I can get new patients. Some of the patients that didn't say yes, let them go. They put them in the bin. They're in the back burner somewhere. As long as we keep getting new patients in, we're going to be good. And that's great. Again, growing your practice, it's important to have new patients. But we know that when you have a patient that's existing, that's been in your practice, has gained the trust, that has moved forward, whether it's through a treatment offer that you've presented or anything like that, the patient has moved forward. They've raised their hand. They've said, listen, I really want to be more confident about my smile, or I really am having some pain, or whatever the reason is, the patient has come into the practice and they've developed a relationship. And through that relationship, you have a higher chance of actually having them move forward with the treatment than you do with a brand new patient. Now, new patients do move forward with treatment. It's just they might take a bit longer of a time. So when I'm working with practices and practices really want to increase growth or really show a change in their numbers, we look at reactivation as because this can really give you an instant result. So again, back to engaged patients, and I really want to just focus on this a bit because reactivation, and we're going to talk about this, engages the patient. But we also want to make sure that during the practice visit, these patients are fully engaged and that we are really being educators here and really educating them into the process. Because as we saw, the 3 ways to great practice, again, it's new patients, retention, and case acceptance. And a lot of time doctors and team members provide lots of great solutions to patients, but a lot of patients don't really know the solutions yet. They're not engaged. And I wanted to share with you a really cool technique which can really help you engage your patients. So a lot of practices are out there. And you might walk into the surgery room, whether you're a hygienist or a doctor, but typically dentists walk in the surgery room and it's taught to just say, is there something hurting or bothering you today? And when you have a patient that hears that, they're just like, man, no, I'm not. Nothing's hurting or bothering me, because they just don't even want to tell you. Most likely they don't want to share that with you because they're thinking like this might cost me money or things like that, or there isn't something hurting or bothering, but you as a trained professional, as a trained health professional, can diagnose and detect a lot more than what someone can by just feeling and sensitivity. So engagement really comes in when the patient is really asking you questions about the treatment. So I want to share with you a bit of a technique that I've learned, and it's stating the problem. The problem can be a cracked tooth. It can be an infection. It can be all different types. It could be the way your teeth are placed within the mouth causing pain, or just doing an ortho treatment. You're stating the problem. You're saying, hey, Betty, what I notice is that you have a cracked tooth. We see that there. The consequence to that is this cracked tooth can lead to other dental complications, whether it's infection or just that that they're going to be going on a ski trip or getting married, because what's important to them and they want to have a great smile for that wedding. So you just reiterate the fact that I don't want this cracked tooth to happen over your honeymoon, and then you just be silent. Allow them to hear what you had to say. Again, the problem, the consequence, and just leave space. And I'm talking about awkward space where you just don't say anything, and allow them to say, well, what do I do? And once they say, what do I do? You have an engaged patient. I'm sharing this with you because as we go down through this webinar, we're going to learn how to do that from an automated place. And we're going to learn how to really show our patients that we're paying attention, and we're going to give them the education that they need so they can come over the barriers that they're having. Again, I'm just going to share that technique one more time. It's stating the problem. It's providing what the consequence is to that problem. A cracked tooth can lead to other complications, and then allowing the space for the patient just to ask some questions. And I'm talking about leaving the space enough where it gets kind of awkward and gets a little bit funny. If they don't say anything, then you just say, do you have any questions? And there you have an engaged patient. I also want to share with you that in the percentages, 33% of patients are just going to say yes. We know that. And then we know that 33% of patients are going to say no. So 33% are going to say yes, and 33% are going to say no. You have 33% that are going to be in an ambivalent space. These are the ones that kind of take the treatment plan and they go home and they say, I need to really talk to my spouse about that. And are we doing the best job to make sure that they're coming over those obstacles? And I'm going to talk about a little bit of that in a second. But again, we have 33% of patients are going to just say yes, 33% of patients are just going to say no, and 33% of patients are going to be in an ambivalent space where they need maybe a little bit more help to get over the edge. And that might be from us, and that might be from just the testimonials or the people back at home to help them make that buying decision. So, and I get it. Listen, I've worked in practices. I've worked with hundreds of practices. There's tons of obstacles that we face with our patients. there's the obstacles of that they can't see what's inside our mouth. That's why the importance of the intraoral camera shows them the evidence. Those intraoral cameras should be used every patient, every time. Those pictures should be going home with the patient. They should be seen by the spouse so that they can work through those obstacles together. Like, this is the mouth I'm kissing you with. We need to take care of this. So believe me, I want to let you know that I understand that there's tons of patient obstacles out there. And if we're using those intraoral cameras, we're coming in as educators. We're really providing a health message to our patients and really engaging them to an oral systemic link that our body talks with our mouth talks with our body, that we can diagnose a lot of disease through the mouth to our body. So these obstacles can be overridden by not only utilizing the tools that we have within the practice and utilizing our education, but making sure that they're engaged patients. So I want to set you up this way, because we're going to do a really good job of now going into how to really build reactivation. But we want to make sure that the patients are coming in engaged and set up for you. So I'm just going to stop right here for a second. I just want to give everybody a chance. I know that there's still people signing in. Does anybody want to ask any questions? Because I'm going to go into some step-by-steps here on building the reactivation. So is there anybody that wants to take a second, ask a question? You can even type it to Ben, and he'll give it back to me. So if you want to unmute yourself, raise your hand at this point, share anything that you're struggling with, or share anything that can give somebody good advice. I'm here to just give that second there if you want. Okay, I'm going to go on. I don't see anybody chatting, or Ben hasn't said anything to me, and I don't see any unmute mics. So again, here we go. We're going to go through what is an effective reactivation system. Okay, so what we just did so far is we've kind of outlined the purpose is to really uncover why these patients are not moving forward. We know there's patient obstacles. We know we need engaged patients. And we know we have the tools and the resources in the practice. You're all highly educated professionals. You know how to do this. Now it's like, okay, the patient has come into the practice. They've raised their hand. They told us what they're looking to take care of. And now we want to know why they're not moving forward. And we're going to now have a system that can help not only get through some of the obstacles with the team, but get through some of the obstacles with the patients. So an effective reactivation system will automate patient tracking. Here's one thing I really, really want everybody to pay attention to. We need to really look at how we're tracking our patients. I've talked about 150 practices just alone last week, and I was asking these simple questions. Some of you might even be on this webinar. Do you currently track your patients? Of course you do. If you're using Exact and R4, you do by putting data in. But when I mean tracking, are you tracking the patient journey? Are you tracking where they came from, how they came in? Are you tracking what's important to the person who's coming into the practice, the real reason why they're there, like their personal motivator? Like, I'm getting married next week. I want my teeth to be whiter. I want a better smile. I'm sick of covering my mouth, and I don't want to I want to not cover my mouth when I'm taking pictures. So these tracking systems that are in place, like Exact, do a very good job of keeping great record. But what they aren't doing a great job of is automating to tell us to make sure that we're following up with the patients. You want a system that's telling you it's been 4 days since this patient has booked. Do you want to send them an email? We can do that right now. Or you can push a button and say, no, don't send an email yet. I'm going to give them another call, or they booked, and you book them. So you want that automation working for you. Excel spreadsheets are not good contact managers. Word documents, they do not do a good job of managing your contacts and your patients. Exact, R4, these digital softwares are great for record keeping. They just were never really built to help really tell us what we need to do. And we have the ability that we work with our clients is to make sure that they can be automated, that they're getting reminders, emails, and things like that. Now, the other side of automation is when the patient does book or needs to move forward, the idea is that Exact does send some text messages and some emails out, but we want to make sure that they're customized, they're engaging, they're educating, and that automation isn't just coming from a robot. So, and we're going to talk about that. Educate and engage patients, okay? Your reactivation system should educate and engage the patients. I come from a strong background of oral systemic health. I've taken a lot of courses, seminars, and I've even taught courses on helping practices really educate the patient on the oral systemic link, whether it's heart disease, whether it's diabetes, whether it's arthritis. BBC just did an article on Alzheimer's. It was last Thursday. It was a very brief, simple arthritis, but it just linked the fact that Alzheimer's and inflammation exist, and there's a finding there. So educate and engage your patients. The engagement, again, is allowing the patient to ask the questions. And we want to do that with our reactivation system. We want to send messaging, whether it's in your recare about the importance of what hygiene can do for you, or giving them total information about having an amazing smile, whether it's secretly straightening your teeth or the real ins and outs of an implant and how that works. This is the kind of messaging you want to be engaging your patients with. So if someone did come into the practice, they went through the process, they've raised their hand, they said, listen, I want to have an implant. We want to be sure that that information is coming to them and it's engaging and it's educating them on that. Personalized. We want to not only, again, Exact does a very good job of allowing you to send text messages and sending emails. It's great. We want them to be personalized. We want it to actually come from the person that they've met with. We want to keep that intimacy there, because there are the many reasons why patients don't move forward, which is spouse or fear, money, obviously. The value has to be there for them to think that it's worth it and it's worth paying for. So we want to make sure that they're not being treated just like any other number. We want to make sure that it's personalized, it's coming from your brand, it's allowing you to really touch them in a way that they need to be touched so that they can take the step moving forward. Back to that tracking. We want to have simple, consistent reporting. So I know there's a lot of TCOs that work in larger practices where you'll have a couple of TCOs doing their reporting on their Excel spreadsheet, and another TCO will be doing some reporting on another Excel spreadsheet, and it just isn't consistent. So we want to make sure that your system is set up so that when you're inputting your patient data, it's grabbing everything that's crucial to know where their journey is. It's grabbing what's important to them, how they came to the practice, and it's consistent throughout the report. The purpose of making sure that it's consistent is because there's times where a team member is going to shift their position. They might be promoted and move on to a managerial position and not be the TCO, or vice versa. You might have to step into the TCO's shoes because they need to pick up some nursing slack. That's how practices are. They're constantly changing and evolving. And when you have that consistency there, then someone can step in that person's shoes, or we just know where that patient has been. So we know more about the patient than the patient does about themselves. We know that they've come in. We know what we've presented to them. We know what's important to them. So we want to make sure that that's consistent there, so we can always just be sure that we're ready for them and we have good record of that. Bridge. This is super exciting news. This is something that we, as our clients, we created, and this is where I wanted to really delve deep into this, is because when working with our clients, we realized that we were trying to get as much stuff off their plate as possible. Sometimes you put more stuff on people's plate to get it off their plate. So we have to maybe wean you off one way to get you to become automated, to become more consistent, to become more savvy with your system. So we've built a bridge that actually communicates between your dental software system and your personalized email system. So your CRM and your dental software system can communicate. And this will take more of that reporting off their plates so that we can just run better detailed reports. And what I mean by that is not just the reporting side, but when I shared with you earlier, when you have an automated system that's helping the team manage many contacts, a human being is only built to manage so much. If our brain was to just manage everything that happens in the world, our heads would be ginormous. So we only have a capability of managing so many people. So we've built systems like Exact and R4 and all the CRMs out there to help manage all these clients and all these patients and all these people out there, so we can keep good note and record of them. And so when they're ready to move forward, we know what to do. So we've built a system that can tell the team member, this patient hasn't booked in 4 days. And I'm using a real example. Patient comes in, they really want to talk about implants, and they go through the treatment coordination process, the journey. They've come in maybe from an offer. They had been presented what implants are. The treatment coordinator's done a great job of presenting a treatment plan. And the patient says, call me on Friday. I need to talk to my spouse, or I really need to figure out how this is going to fit into my lifestyle. And then TCO, reception, or somebody follows up with that patient and they just don't answer. In today's day and age, everybody is on email, everybody is on their tablets, everybody is on webinars like this. We're in a digital age. So what we want to do is make sure that the dental software system is prompting the TCO reception or whoever is responsible for those patients to say, hey, Brian hasn't booked yet. He was here for implants. Do you want to give him a call? Give him a call. Or do you want to just click here and we can send him a really gentle, personalized email coming from you, the TCO or reception, that says, hey, we tried to give you a call. We missed you. We want to make sure that you're okay. Do you want to discuss your treatment plan? So that automation is there. That tracking is there. And that ability to communicate back and forth with your dental software system is there. And we wanted to share that with you because our goal is to make more efficiency for you, for your team, so we could just get more patients healthy and get them on where they want to be. So a reactivation system also isn't just about past patients. It's not, because again, when I started off this webinar, and the reason why I created this specific topic is because after talking to so many practices that say, Brian, what about like this list of patients that I've had from like 2013, 2014, or 2015? How do I get them to come back into their practice? I just feel like I'm sitting on 100,000 to 1.3 million a year. So we've heard stuff as about 100,000, and we've heard numbers as high as 1.3 million pounds of unaccepted treatment that has come through the practice in the past 2 years. So there's a historical list, and then there's the future list. First, I'm going to address the historical. So the historical list is where we can create, or you can create, the system in which allows us to re-engage them, re-educate them about the treatment plan, or just re-engage them and give them the ability to communicate back to us on why they didn't move forward, right? So we want to just make sure that we're taking care of the patients that didn't move forward. And it's okay if they say, you know what, I chose another option. At least you know where and why. And then with that great system that you have in place, you can go back and look, where could we have shown better support to the team or to that patient? So that's the historical list. So once we've addressed the historical list and re-engaged them and brought them in, and again, if you're sitting with 100,000 in lapsed treatment or 1.3 million, your percentages to gain that back. If we look at that, you look at, you have 100 patients come in, they all want to have some sort of treatment, and then the team does a great job of doing about a 50% conversion. Fantastic. Having a historical ability to go back, you'll at least able to go and address 10% to 40% of those patients. So that's just increasing your odds of addressing that historical list and increasing the possibilities of having them come back to the practice. So that's the historical list. I can stop right here. I know I'm moving a bit fast, so I do have time. I have about 15 to 20 minutes. I just want to check in with everybody. You guys are doing an amazing job of being quiet and listening. So if you have questions at this point, I'm more than happy to just check in with you. Just unmute yourself or shoot a comment to Ben.
Anthony says,
so I have a question, and Ben's speaking to me. Anthony?
How to motivate staff to develop a reactivation system?
Okay, great question. So Anthony is, how do we get the team motivated? I mean, that's like, how do we get the horse to drink water, right? So you can put a reactivation system in place, but how do we get people to use it? So we have to look at the context in which we operate at. So context is a big part of it. Reactivation is designed because somewhere along the line, the patient didn't move forward. So we want to reactivate them, or somewhere along the line, they're not answering our phone calls, and we want to have a system to not let them get lost. So that's where I was going. But I want to answer Anthony's question. The question is, again, how do we get the team to be excited about using it? Well, there's a lot of different ways. One, we need to address the context at which it is. Is it just another task, Anthony? Are they just like, this is just another thing you want us to do, and we have to do 100,000 things? So how are we bringing it into the team? Are we allowing the space and support and support? And what I mean is, are we teaching them how to really use it and then removing it? Is it becoming efficient? So that's another reason why we're doing this webinar, is because we want to create efficiency for the team. We want the teams to work less, but produce more health for the patients. So produce a better quality of service. So if they're busy plugging numbers in, putting things into Excel spreadsheets, or using MailChimp, which doesn't provide any reporting. It's a great email system, but it just doesn't provide any of the automation that I've been talking about. So the excitement is, one, the context in which they see it as. Is it just another task? Two, is it more stuff to do? You're just giving us more stuff to do. And then going back to the context, is it just because we're making the practice more money? Well, people become hygienists because they really care about patients, and people become dentists because they care about patients. It doesn't mean that you can't be cosmetic. It's cosmetic wellness, or cosmetic products and services provide and enhance people's lives. And that's why you go into this business, because it's a great creative way to really help people. And the reactivation system isn't just designed to help bring the patients back to the practice. It's designed to make it more efficient. So again, it's that context in which we look at it and how we leading the team into utilizing it. And is it doing the job we want it to do? So we're vicious about getting the results. So when we have a practice that is working with us, we want to make sure that you're getting the result. And the result usually is not just to bring patients back to the practice, but it's just to make our practice easier to work in and not have to manage so many different things. The result also is the time and effort that we put into these things. Does it pay out? Meaning, are we having more time with our families, having more time with our patients, having more time to do the things that we want to do? So I hope I've answered your question, Anthony. It's really the context. Is it another task? Is this simple? I'm not sure what system you're using. So if it's with the systems that we use, then definitely call with me. And at the end of this webinar, I'm going to give you an opportunity to voice your opinion. And you can always call me. I mean, I stand for health. I'm a strong believer in hygiene as being the foundation of dentistry, but I also know what else it can do besides just improve people's health. It can improve people's smiles. It can improve people's confidence. There's so much. I mean, the list goes on, and I don't want to go too far into it. So, Anthony, I hope I answered your question. You can always call me, and I'm going to make sure that you have that opportunity at the end of the webinar. Any other questions? Ben, was there another question? Okay. So it's kind of tailing off Anthony's question is, how do we get the team excited about it? Is we want to make it so that the team feels safe to use it, that it works, that their context to it, it's getting more patients healthy, it's taking things off their place. We also want to do the same for the patients. We don't want patients feeling that it's just an automated email. You're treating me like a number, like every other automated thing that's happening in the world. We want to make sure, again, that it's personalized, that it's educating the patient, and that they feel safe. Feel safe that they can communicate back. Sorry, Ben's just saying that there's another question. I'm going to answer it in a few seconds. I'm just going to finish this thought and make sure that I reiterate that the patient would feel safe to contact you back. You want to have the patient feel really safe to be able to say. So in some of our reactivation literature and communications, we give the opportunity for the patient to say, tell us how your experience was. Tell us maybe how we can help you work through any of those obstacles, which might be financial, which might be spouse obstacles, where my spouse doesn't think this is really worth our purchase. So, and these are real factors that happen. I've been in a practice. I know what it's like. I know that you're faced with these things. So we want to make sure that we're having the safety there. So patients can feel at ease with telling you why they didn't move forward or what will help them move forward. So Ben, you had a question.
What's the best dental practice software to track patients?
Well, we currently use. So the question was, what is the best dental practice software system to track patient rate? We currently use Infusionsoft. We're a strong believer. It has so many functionalities, and if you ever need any tips around that outside this webinar, I'm more than happy to schedule a call with you as well and talk with you on different software systems. I mean, there's the one that we use and we're very proud of is Infusionsoft, and we can work with you from you owning it, and we can work with you from us working behind the scenes for you in that to help get it built for you. So I would say Infusionsoft is one of the best. I know that there's some other little ones out there like MailChimp is a way to do some marketing to them. It's really designed just really to do email marketing. You want a system that really can really provide the flexibility and the reporting to track specific data. Also, you want a system where it's very easy for a team to use. And we shop a lot in using different types of systems out there. Salesforce is another system that's out there. It's very, very costly. It has an amazing function, but for the price, and it might even be too robust for dental practices. So we found that Infusionsoft is the best. I hope that answered your question. So again, we're looking to bring patients back to the practice. Just to kind of bring myself back into it, what we went through is that we want to personalize, we want to automate, we want to create efficiency for our teams, we want to create safety for our patients, we want to engage and educate. We want to come from that place. We also want to create the ability to bring patients back, because this is such an automated world. They're on their phones. I'm on my phone. I'm on my phone all the time. I'm deleting junk mail all the time. Believe me, I understand it. We're not in the business to send spam to people. We're in the business to brand things to patients that are saying, okay, it's okay to send me some information. So we want to bring your patients back. We want to create the ability to not only address the historical list of patients, we also want to address the future of patients. So instead of patients getting lost and getting into that historical space, we want to get them, nurture them along the pathway if they're not responding as they wish they would have responded, meaning, can you call me on Friday? And they don't call, but our system is there to tell us when to call that patient back, or to tell us to give them more time. Give them more time and we'll call you. Or just go ahead, let's send a gentle email, because they might feel better to communicate that way. So 7 Connections is all about enhancing lives. It's not just enhancing patient lives. So I look at the growth of dental practice as like when we think of money, because I know team members hate to sell dentistry, and I know doctors hate to sell dentistry. I hate to sell anything. But when you have something that a patient has raised their hand, they came into the practice, and you presented them with a solution to something that they wanted to have and be solved, then you know that you can possibly enhance their lives. So when I say enhance their lives, what we want to do is not only enhance the patient lives and bring patients back to your practice, we want to enhance the lives of the team members and the doctors that do this service to our patients. So we want to create efficiency with the dental teams. We want to provide a work-life balance, because isn't that what it's all about? It's all fun and games at work, and we want to create fun working, great environments. We also want to have fun home with our spouses, our children. We want to earn the money we want to have so that we can take the vacations we love. So 7 Connections is all about connecting everybody so that we can make the connections to your patients, with your practice, and your teams to have better efficiency. So we're about enhancing the lives not only of our patients, but enhancing the lives of the team members and the doctors that do the hard work that it takes to provide dentistry in this world. So as we're a year into the end, I have I'm looking at the clock, and it's about 5 more minutes or 6 more minutes. I do want to just let you know that for all you guys, I just want to, again, thank you so much for being on the webinar. I'd love to hear from you, so I'm even willing to stay late. So if this was engaging for you and you want to shoot Ben a couple more questions, I'm here for you. I want to make sure that you got the value. If I didn't answer a question or I missed something, that's the tricky part about it being live. We're not editing anything. So I would love to, I see a question coming in. It says, Brian, hi, should we phone patients instead of emailing them to increase acceptance? Well, it's a really great question. So phoning patients is definitely something that you should be doing. So we set up the systems that remind, again, Exact does a good job of tracking, and they'll send an email out, and they'll send things not very branded and things like that. But we want to bridge your system so that you get reminded to give that patient a call. Because what I find is that when I talk to practices, they say, we have Excel spreadsheets and Word documents, and this is how we're following up with patients. That doesn't remind you. The more patients you add to that list and the more notes you have to take, it lessens the efficiency that you have, and 2, it doesn't remind you to call that patient. So the answer to your question, yes, it's very important that you call your patient and give that personal touch. You can't call every patient because every patient's not going to answer. They're used to shopping around, going in, kicking the tires. You know, they're used to coming in, seeing what's available to them, and then them weighing it out. So I would say it's both. You want to call them if they don't answer. You want to have some sort of nurture sequence that can allow them to opt in and then book a call with you. I see it all the time. We implement it all the time. It's what you want to do is nurture them along and give them that safe place, whether it's on their tablet, on their phone, on their email, and provide a number of, not just one email, but allow some days, weeks to go by and just say, hey, we're just checking in with you again. I know you have an outstanding, you know what I'm trying to get at. And then we have another question from Anthony, which, what would it cost to set up a reactivation system? So I love questions like this because I know patients call your practice and they say, what is the cost of a crown? Or what is the cost of a filling? Or what is the cost to get my cracked tooth fixed? So I want to debunk that right now, is because it's all different. Without me getting the chance to really work with you and have the ability to really look at what your needs are, because what I put together here, it says reactivation survey, is a survey to help identify where you are in the spectrum. So you're all going to get that. It's what it is to allow you to not only answer some questions in the survey and just kind of go back through what we did. It's really short. It's going to help identify where you are on the spectrum. So are you doing these things? What are some of the missed opportunities that you might have? And then it will allow you, it's optional, to book a call with John Burrow or myself. And that call is designed to just go over the results of the survey and then answer questions like Anthony has, like what are the costs? So if I were here to give up the cost, then it would be just like another patient shopping around for something, where I'd rather get you on the phone, have a real conversation with you, and speak with you about what it is that you're trying to achieve, because I don't want to throw out numbers that would cost a lot less than the possibilities. But I can give you a range that it can cost very, very, from a nominal amount of a few £100 to, if you wanted to do the whole gamut of thing, to other levels of investments. So it's all relative of what results that you want to create and what you want to involve, because reactivation isn't just, this is just the vehicle of it. And that's an exciting thing, is that if you were to set up a reactivation system with us, it really is just the tip of the iceberg, and it doesn't really have to cost extra money to continue utilizing the system for yourself. So I think that question came from Anthony. Anthony, I hope you get what I'm trying to say. Is I don't want it to be about cost. I want it to be about what results we're after, and then make sure that your investment is fitting to what you can afford to create those results. I have another question that came in. It says, Brian, can you talk about patients' confidentiality in emails? We have to encrypt all emails containing sensitive information. Great question. So confidentiality. So I hate spam. I delete it just like anybody else, and I don't want to be in the business of sending spam to anybody. I want to be in the business, again, as I reiterated, enhancing team members' lives, enhancing patients' lives. I want to be in the business and transform people's context to dentistry and seeing what's available for them. So the confidentiality is, we ask permission, and when we coach and consult our practices, we ask permission for them to do that. When a patient gives an email, they're basically saying it's okay for you to email me. An email is specifically designed to communicate with you. So if some practices have more of a fear of that, and it's okay to have that fear, because we don't want to be invasive. So what we do is we provide abilities to allow patients to opt into different things. So we'll construct newsletters and things like that that are soft, gentle ways of just sending out an announcement. So I had a practice. I want to use this really quick example if you're still with me. I had a practice that was like, Brian, I don't have a historical list because we've never tracked it. I was like, great. But we have a historical list of people that haven't come into the practice for a hygiene visit in the past 3 years. So 2013, 2014, 2015, no hygiene. So I said, let's shift your reactivation to a recare. What we'll do is we'll send out a health awareness message to those patients. And it's just a reminder to them, and it allows them to opt in or opt out. So that's one. Just to share some results of that, one email, 35 patients booked. in the first hour of one email of just sharing. And the title of that email was "Your Hygienist and Dentist Can Prevent Disease." One email, 35 patients booked, or click to book an appointment with that practice. So I hope that answers your question. We want to always ask the patient. So just to end note it is, if a patient calls up and they want to, they're asking how much teeth whitening would be, or they want some information, and you say, do you mind if I grab your email address? I can send you some information. And that's where we build that rapport. So we don't want to just mass send things out. We want to maybe opt them in, allow patients to do that. And it all just depends on the sensitivity of your patients. I know some patients can judge that, and some patients, some practices have a bit more fear about that, but we would work with you on different levels. So there are different solutions in that. I have another question coming in from Jose, and he's saying, in which order would you follow the patients? First phone call, then message, then letter? And how many times and how long would you try? So I think today it's shifted. In the past, so I've been working in dentistry for over 13 years, and I would say that the telephone call, even though we all have a phone in our pocket, we probably use the phone less than we do in text messaging and email. I always would say that a phone call starts always best. It also addresses the last question that came in is confidentiality, and that feeling of spam, or that feeling of we don't want to encrypt emails and things like that, is that a call first would be okay. And then, because what we design is we do a call first with certain practices, and we set up an automation so that it reminds patients to call first, and then do you want to go ahead and send them an email? And that email comes from that person saying, I've tried to give you a call. I hope we're not bothering you. We just want to make sure you're okay. Would you like to just schedule a few minutes on the phone just to talk about your treatment plan? Super basic, super easy. The ability for the patient to respond to a person, not just an automated email, and also the ability to click, give them that automation because they're on their phone and they can click and say, yeah, I would, or no, and they can opt out and you'll know that. So I would call. I find that sending letters out is nice. Junk mail in our mailboxes has gotten quite full. Not just our emails, but our mailbox. So I would say the letter would be the last choice. So I hope I've answered your question. Excuse me. I'm just going to put that up there. The reactivation survey, I'll just go quickly back. The reactivation survey, I'm going to send that out to all of you. You're just going to get an email. Fill it out. It's very simple. It allows you to book a call. That call, I mean, we can spend 15 minutes together just looking at what's in place now. What would you like to have in place moving forward? Let's look at the results, and let's get those results and show you some, and I'll even provide answers to other obstacles. If Anthony, you want to look at igniting the team, I'll work with you on that. I love doing that kind of stuff. It's a passion of mine. I love being in dentistry. It's a lot of fun. So I would love to support you guys in that. Is there any more questions? I'm just putting, a thank you up there again. That's my phone number. That's my direct line. That's my direct email. So if you don't want to fill out the survey, it's fine. I would love for you to send some feedback to me. If there's other topics that you want to learn about, I plan to do more webinars with you all. If there's something unanswered and you didn't want to get online, maybe your phone's not working the way you wanted it to work, so you can't send the message. But I really wanted to just thank you all for being with me. We're right at time, which is really cool. So again, if there's any other questions, I think Ben just shot me a question here. Can you talk about patients confidential? I've answered that question, sorry. And which order would you follow the patients up? And I've answered that question. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much. I really, again, just having this moment to spend with you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Let's finish off Monday strong.